Hallelujah, hallelujah. Welcome, everybody, to the Arcane Archive. Yes, yes. We are so glad to be back once again to offer all of you a new perspective, as always. Well, maybe new isn't quite the most accurate term to use, because honestly, we seem to always just kind of be repeating ourselves like a broken record, Sam, for all of these people. It just seems that nobody wants to learn. But that being the case, as always, we're going to keep shoving it down their throats until they do. That's why we're back with another episode of Cautionary Chronicles. Indeed. What do you think of today's stories that we have lined up, Sammy?
We got a couple just not they're just more entertaining or funny or maybe even adorable a little bit.
A little
Uh
lighthearted here or there. We appreciate that. Obviously, still need maybe some tweaking and such, but a nice different what do we call it? A nice different bundle and bunch that we've got all conglomerated for you. That being the case, as always, if you like what we're doing here, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share the channel. Any support that you could provide is always immensely appreciated. We thank you guys so much. And be on the lookout for some new content on the way. There have been some updates, some things that have finally been moving and falling into place, and we're looking forward to upping the ante a little bit finally and coming through with some promises that we had made way early on in our inception here. So, little gift for you to look forward to. But with that being the case, let's go ahead and get started for the day, shall we? The first story we have for y'all is The GM Says She Isn't in Love with My Wife, but I'm not sure I believe her, by Biggest Lemon. So I've been playing TTRPGs with the same group since college. Over the years, the size has ranged from 4 to 10 members and has at times had multiple campaigns running all at once, with some even having some shared players. Now, when the group began, some of us were already close friends, while others were mere acquaintances that shared an interest. But in the decades or so since, we have all become pretty close, barring the odd member leaving here and there, of course. However, barring a few meetups over the years, all of our games are online since we've moved so far apart since college. This story only really concerns two people other than moi. Birdie, initially an acquaintance that went to my school, and Tabby, initially the sister of a classmate who is now also my wife. Hey, look at you, OP. Look at you. We see it. We see you moving up in the world. All right. Birdie joined the group a year or so after Tabby did and started GMing with the group a year or so after that. When it began, I was having a blast and genuinely did have a lot of fun throughout. But as our first set of PCs shook off their training wheels and moved into proper adventuring territory, things finally started to feel a bit off. Birdie, you see, only runs homebrew adventures. Hey, no problem. And loves making new content for PCs in the terms of feats, spells, and magic items. Sounds awesome, right? I mean, sounds pretty great to me, quite frankly. By the time this campaign had reached its halfway point, however, Tabby's PC had one, a homebrew system for upgrading the heirloom weapon from her backstory instead of simply looting better ones over time. The weapon itself gained abilities based upon what she accomplished, i.e., the party kills a certain enemy, the sword gets X magic property, and so on and so forth. Two, a prestige class reworked to better fit her backstory. And three, an NPC from said backstory given an incredibly important role in the plot. By the same time in the campaign, my PC had, in comparison, received, count 'em, one appearance from her parents. Cool. And the other players were somewhere in between, I suppose. It's important to note that Tabby was not demanding of this. She approached Birdie with an idea for the upgrading weapon, and Birdie invested an enormous amount of time into developing it as a system. By contrast, even when I did all of the work myself to create a comparable homebrew system to benefit my own character, I was effectively denied. One of my PCs in this campaign was a kineticist. Think like an earthbender from Avatar. I think that would be more like a geomancer, whereas the kineticist would imply that you have maybe more like telekinetic abilities, at least I would assume. But either way, your character, of course. I don't want to tell you how to do it. Really complex class that doesn't use weapons or cast spells. Since most magic items don't seem to really help them much, they had a system where they could perform rituals, i.e., a skill challenge, in special locations. If they succeeded, they would be able to gain a permanent buff that was equivalent to finding a nice magic sword in a loot pile. I created a list of rituals my character could do and suggestions for what the rewards could possibly be, and then shared it in a Google spreadsheet with Birdie. The most exciting idea to me was being able to summon and animate like a dinosaur fossil from within the earth. The class could learn to do something similar, and this would be an improved version later on. Birdie accepted this list and promised to add these opportunities into the loot soon. So, when our group was finally exploring, we came across what appeared to be a fossilized behemoth. Oh, I was incredibly excited. My character performed the ritual, passed the skill checks, and not only did I not get the reward that I suggested, my reward was in fact a feature that my character already had from his class, a chance to ignore critical hits, which effectively means absolutely nothing. It literally helped me nothing at all. It was clear that Birdie either vaguely remembered I had said something about a dinosaur, but didn't even really bother to open up the dock. So, essentially, did not give me the reward that I wanted, let alone made sure the effect actually even helped me at all. Suffice it to say, I was mad, and Birdie could tell, so we talked about it. The short version is Birdie promised to do better. Things were a bit better during the rest of this campaign, and it did come to a satisfying end. Cool. Okay. See, a little bit of a conversation, a little bit of
It's
a,
it's 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 one of the things we told people to do.
yeah, you know what? See, we are making a difference, you guys. This obviously was due to our influence, of course, and no, and not any amount of just, logical, rational, normal speaking or whatever. Unfortunately, such a thing as people getting back on that wagon exists, unfortunately. Or is it off the wagon? I sometimes forget exactly how that particular example works. Like when you're on the wagon, that's when you're doing the behavior or the thing that's not good for you, right? And when you fall off the wagon, that's when you're good, right? You don't want to be on the wagon, right? Or is it the other way around?
What do you mean?
Like when someone says like, "Oh, you're on the wagon again." No, maybe that is like when it's like you're on the wagon again. That means you're doing something that
You're
isn't
doing the
good for
bad
you.
thing again.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you don't want to be on the wagon. Okay, yeah, you
No,
want to be off
no,
the
the
wagon.
wagon is the metaphor is because it's something that you can't control.
Yes.
You don't have
Okay.
the reins to the wagon. You don't have the steering wheel to said wagon. You're just on it for the ride,
And you want to get
no
off of
matter
it.
where it brings you.
Yeah, and you want to get
Because
off of it.
it's
Okay.
about addiction, and addiction is
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. So okay, yeah. So we want people to get off the wagon. So the GM apparently got back on that wagon of that behavior. Okay, perfect. See, there you go. You learned some stuff here. So then began campaign two, and it got worse. I don't like to think that the reason is because Tabby and I started dating and then eventually got engaged during this campaign, but looking back, anyway, to start this campaign, Birdie wanted one PC to be related to a dead NPC in order for a plot hook to work. No one else seemed interested, so I decided mine would be. I figured, hey, I'd have to get more spotlight if I did this, right? So I also provided Birdie with a lot more backstory material. My PC used to be a member of the enemy faction. I had a short list of former friends that would make great enemies to fight, yada yada. I wrote about her homeland and the sort of things we might encounter if we went there. I basically gave Birdie everything she could possibly need. And here's how it went. One, anytime my PC brought up things from her backstory in character, Birdie seemed to have absolutely no idea what I was talking about. Name of my homeland, awkward pause and blank stare. NPC names I created, nada, zilch, zip. The only parts of the backstory that did come up at all were the parts that Birdie created, i.e., the dead NPC plot hook. Not a single detail that I came up with. Two, meanwhile, every member of Tabby's PC's immediate family became an NPC, had deep ties to the enemy faction, and had memorable RP moments, if not a role as an end boss. Three, other players had their PC's deities and backstories woven into the main plot in various ways, though not as much as Tabby. 4, and finally, Tabby's previous PC, now apparently a demigod, came back as a surprise NPC. Birdie did not ask for permission to do this, and it did not go over well. That last part prompted a conversation between Tabby and I about this issue. We were engaged and living together at this point in time. We both recognized the favoritism, but didn't want to admit that it might be because of unrequited feelings. I had another talk with Birdie about the favoritism issue, and it seemed like we were stuck in a catch-22. Birdie seemed to focus solely on other PCs, so I lost interest and wasn't engaging with the game, but because I wasn't engaging with the game, Birdie wasn't focusing on me. Again, Birdie agreed to do better. Soon, we did have a combat with an NPC tied to my backstory, but even still, it was one that Birdie created, not me. Fast forward to now. Tabby and I have been happily married for almost 5 years, and we're in Birdie's third campaign, and it is still happening. My PC has ties to a lost civilization that we could at least find ruins and traces of, but that's only happened once or twice over the past couple years. Meanwhile, Tabby makes her PC an ex-spy, and almost everything we do is connected to this spy organization. And the largest subplot to happen yet has been deciding who is going to become the new leader of this spy group. At one point, Tabby flat out asked Birdie if she was interested in her romantically and if that was why this keeps happening, and Birdie just denied it. Tabby told me about this conversation. I don't think I believe Birdie's claims personally, because this has been going on consistently for nearly a decade, despite talking it out at least once in every campaign. It does get better for a little while and then it goes back to how it used to be, you know? I would rather play in a cookie cutter pre-made adventure where backstories just don't come up at all than continue with a game where there is such an imbalance of spotlight. I am so emotionally checked out of Birdie's game, it feels rarely worth the lost hours of sleep, except for the chatting and catching up with my friends that happen before each game actually begins. I don't invest in the role playing, and Birdie probably doesn't feel bad about glossing over my character as a result. And this coincidence, quote unquote, that the person who married me gets the most attention in every game and I get the least, it's starting to not feel so coincidental. End post. So, right off the bat, what do you think, buddy boy?
There's some feelings. There's some feelings in
There's
here.
there's something going on. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of something going on here behind the scenes, it
there's
seems.
some feelings. I'm not a huge fan of adults who can't um work through their feelings when dealing with a group of people. This
Especially over
sounds
years, maybe even apparently a decade almost by the sounds of
yeah,
it.
like this your their time has passed. I don't know. I just don't understand why you're in this game.
I mean,
I don't get it. Like I understand wanting to hang out with your friends, but like if you really want to see your friends, you can hang out with
well,
them aside from this. This doesn't have to be the beginning and end of your relationship with these people. You're
well,
making it sound well, I know, but like I understand you're far away, but
yeah.
this you're putting so much like OP is putting so much worth on this time. And like dude, this you do not sound happy in this. I'm not saying it's causing issues in your relationship, but it could. Like this is so not worth it at all. And like yeah, I don't
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, what I will say right off the bat, OP is like, right off the bat, here's the thing, right? I don't really like I understand in a game that, it would be ideal to be able to have all of your ideas and your backstory and all this stuff really come into play and be fleshed out and pay off big time, narratively as well as maybe even mechanically, like all that. Yeah, ideal. That would be the ideal thing in any campaign, right? In any game that you play. The thing that I don't really understand though is kind of maybe is also to Sam's point is like you are putting a lot of like your enjoyment and fun into that. Like I don't like I like because here's the thing, right? I 100% understand like when you feel like you're being targeted and treated unfairly, that is never a good feeling, right? To anybody. I've experienced that a number of times myself. I have. And it's never a great feeling. Um But even in this particular game, right? Like it's like, you're maybe not getting you have clearly a lot of really interesting ideas and you're really like excited and I get that like, that it can be a little bit draining and you start feeling like, ugh, whatever. But I also feel like maybe you're giving the GM a little bit too much power over you, right? You're ironically maybe even giving the GM like exactly what they're wanting, right? They're wanting you to like kind of maybe feel shitty if they really are in love with your wife, your partner, and they're maybe feeling, bitter and resentful towards you, about being with her. And instead, and this is obviously just my personal opinion and thought, like, I'd say like, fuck her then. Say, don't give her the satisfaction, right? Okay, yeah, she's not gonna incorporate all the things that you wanted or you wrote, at least, within a reasonable extent, right? But I would say at that point, screw it, right? You sent her all of this stuff. If she says that she approved of your character, as far as I'm concerned, then that's canon. And she can start acting and pretending like it doesn't exist. Have your wife and the rest of your friends absolutely acknowledge all of that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Call her out on that shit, right? She says she does better. And so if that's the case, if this is a consistent, repetitive case of behavior that she's showcasing, it's clear that it is intentional. Because if it gets better once you bring it up and once you address it, but then all of a sudden it falls back, she gets back on the wagon, this means that it is indeed on some level a conscious decision that they are inflicting maybe once they get to a point where they're starting to feel again that bitter and resentfulness crop back up again, right? um One thing I would also like to ask is, does has your wife at any point asked her to stop that? Like, have you guys, like, again, your wife did apparently directly ask her, are you romantically interested in me? She denies it. But has your wife ever deliberately asked, like, hey, could you maybe show a little bit more, spotlight on the other players? Maybe even my partner a bit, who's getting a bit frustrated with maybe feeling kind of, neglected and dismissed, even. Like, you had a conversation with her, she gets better at it. Yeah, like to Sam's point too, at this point, like if you're even saying you're not having fun, if it has literally affected you to such an extent where you have just lost any and all interest or passion for this campaign, then yeah, you should give her an ultimatum and be like, "Hey, I've just been noticing that this is a reoccurring theme in almost every campaign that we have played that you are GMing now." Because apparently you guys have other campaigns going on, right? Like you said, you have multiple campaigns and it's primarily just the one that Birdie is GMing. That seems to be the issue. So I don't really know why.
Yeah, like I mean, I do understand wanting to hold on to things because it's with your friends, and this is like,
But even more to your point, if they have other campaigns that they all get together with, like it might be more understandable if this is like, oh, this is the only campaign left that they're all in together. And it would be like, okay, I could see the sentimentality of that as well. But if you have or could have other, campaigns that you're playing, why do you still need to be involved in this one? Like, even after you keep talking to her or apparently addressing it and saying, "Hey, like either I think she's already shown over the course of all this time she's not going to change, at least not for long, right? She's not going to address or adjust her behavior. So that means that you have to. You can't really change what she's gonna feel or what she's gonna do. You can't make her be honest with you, even though I know it really sucks. Like, don't get me wrong. I hate not having closure about shit like that, right? We're just like, just be honest. Look, if you're feeling bitter and resentful because I'm with this person and you like them and you're not, like, okay, but at least be honest about that, because then maybe we can maybe address it and move past it and figure some way. But she's not gonna do that, apparently. So at that point, it really is just about what you choose to do yourself at this point. Um,
yeah, it's gotta be like this is just dangerous.
like top voted comment down below is like, why are you still in this game? Seems like you're not having fun, and if you're even losing sleep over it, like that's what I'm saying. Like, I think you're really letting this whole thing bother you way too much, OP. Like you're letting Birdie live in your head way rent free right now. Like literally losing sleep.
Well,
That's
I'll be
extreme.
I'll be the first one to admit that it's hard to let go of a game. It's hard to,
Sure, 100%.
especially if it's not like some random game with people online. It's like some
Yeah, you built
real.
up a real friendship, and I mean, you've been doing this for almost a decade with these people. Like, but it's like again, like you said, Sam, and like this commenter says, it's like, I don't know why you would keep doing this to yourself. Chatting with friends doesn't require you to play a game afterwards. Like, if this game, like again, like we say, no D&D is better than bad D&D, right? I don't really know why like you have to let this campaign of all campaigns like screw with your mental state to such an extent. Like I feel like again you're letting this affect you way more than you need to, even though don't get me wrong, like I said, I 100% agree it's shitty. It's annoying and it can be highly frustrating, but that's only to the point where you allow it to be, right? Once you acknowledge and accept the reality of okay, this person might even be doing this purposefully, at that point you just have fun with it then, right? Just at that point just be like, you know what, I'm not here for that. I'm not here for the story. I am here for my friends, right? That's why you're there. So do that then. Be there for your friends, engage with your friends. you know you can even just for me, like I would just basically be like, I'm going to keep it fair. I'm going to include everyone else in these conversations as well, to be like, hey, do you guys maybe feel like you're not getting enough spotlight, you're not getting enough, whatever, like, hey, I'm going to say, like, I haven't gotten any new items or any new things in a while, or abilities in a while, like I would like to do that, right? Maybe you're not going to be able to get as much as your wife does. Okay, doesn't matter. Like,
Like also like is your wife having a good time?
that's what I'm asking. I'm like, has your wife asked to stop? Because I mean, if she's in, like, clearly she seems a little bit uncomfortable, or at least you guys have talked about it. But another thing too being is like, I don't know. For me, I guess I'm also the type of person where I can kind of, I just take spotlight sometimes, but I also try to give it to other people. Like, what kind of role player are you? Are you more of an immersive, in depth, like, verbose role player where your characters, are a little bit more like outgoing, interactive, whatever else, you know what I mean? Like, do you do that, or are you more of a, I'm having trouble thinking of words today for some reason. Like my head is just kind of blank. Are you more of like a reserved, like quiet, kind of individual and role player? Because I mean, from what you've said here, it doesn't seem like you'd be particularly quiet. Like, you seem to be a much more outgoing individual based off of your post here. So I mean, if that's the case, just take some spotlight with that, right? Okay, your backstory and whatever else isn't applicable. Screw it. Make your legacy, make your odyssey, your whole story right in the present, right? Screw the past. Make it all present right now. Make interactions and stuff. And I get it if the GM is basically going to start ignoring your characters too, where like they're not even responding to you engaging or interacting, then yeah, at that point you're just like, all right, clearly this, I'm just not meant to be here, right? Clearly the GM just doesn't want me to be here,
Yeah.
and it is what it is. You know what I mean? Anything else you kind of got with this one, buddy?
No, I think that's so.
All right, let's go move on to the next one in our roster. Take it away, Sammy.
All right, this one's a little bit less high stakes, kind of. There's a little bit of high
It depends on
stakes.
the context of your personal
Um,
preference, I guess, or
this one like kind of
opinion.
made me
Opinion.
this one kind of made me giggle when I originally found it. Um, this is by OK Trouble 9787. When I try to thunderwave a child's character to her death, the danger of wild shape.
It's certainly a
This
captivating
is
title,
this is a bit of a short
if
one.
nothing else.
But to get started here, it's something a little lighthearted. I play in a Saturday morning parents and kids game. Our kids are upper elementary to early middle school, doing Tomb of Annihilation. Lots of time spent trying to tame and befriend dinos. The DM's kid is a Circle of the Moon druid. We are hundreds of feet up on a tower, and Druid wild shaped into the flying dino people we are fighting. My bard is trying her best to hypnotically pattern the other bad guys out of the air, but they all save. Sad face. I lose track of
It
which
happens.
flying dino person is the druid, even though our DM, her dad, put a little dot on which one she was. I get to where there are two bad guys on the edge of the tower, and I decide Thunderwave would be a good idea, with guaranteed damage since my hypnotic pattern didn't work before. I cast it and hear my DM call to this poor child, who I now have found out only had 3 health left in the wild shape to roll her save. Y'all, she was on her second wild shape. I had lost track of which one she was. If she failed, she would have had no way to wild shape into something to save herself, uh, inevitably being pushed 10 feet back, get unwild shaped, and fall from the very top of the structure. Rules as written, it would have been a death. My heart stopped. The goal as a mom was to try to have my character protect and heal the kid players. All the parents pretty much built their characters with healing spells to help the kids as they fought and ran and whatever they needed to do. Mid fight, oh, as the kids ran after our reluctant pet Velociraptor. Mid fight, our 2 kid druids will run and save him. Thank Bomb it, she rolled an 18, so just took damage and popped back in to Baxi form. But I felt so bad. The DM thought it was hilarious, and the kid was gracious about the whole thing. Lesson learned: double check where the druids are before attacking. If the dice had rolled the other way, it would have been a real horror story and not an almost horror story. The reason I liked this is I think it does show something about some of these stories that we do read. Not everything people do is
On
this in is
purpose,
this like
yeah.
intended maliciousness. Um, that's kind of the beauty of D&D. Is sometimes shit just happens and everyone's like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, you just made a bad call, you lost track of some things you probably shouldn't have, and you made an oopsie daisy, I do love just the wholesomeness of this whole post in general, like just a Saturday morning parents and kid game. That sounds delightful to me, like, and they're doing Tomb of Annihilation of all things. Like,
That's
here's the
well,
thing.
yeah. That's
Like,
the one I was like, "Really?"
like that's crazy. Like I'm saying here, like again, I don't even feel like even if, and especially if it's the GM's daughter or whatever. Like I
Hoping they're
have,
kidifying some of the points in that story because it's at least when I played it, it was pretty adult.
yeah. I mean, they might be, but also if they are, like I like the fact that the GM thought it was hilarious. I
Shows me what
wouldn't.
kind of kid they probably have too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wouldn't be surprised if they've played like their own maybe like duet campaigns or something, and he's maybe killed plenty of her characters potentially. You know what I mean? Like she was apparently gracious about it, and it happens. I think it's hilarious too that she was a mother. Like she was like, as a mom, I was like, oh my god, I didn't mean to. It was just
I do
like
love the fact that like
that's
this
just
is
adorable. It's
definitely something that the,
hilarious.
the DM could be like, "Oh, you made a mistake. You don't have to go through with the spell."
Yeah, or you could have, just turned your maybe like
Well,
your
no, it's Thunderwave. It's
Thunderwave.
everywhere. Or
Well, no, no, no.
yeah, no.
Thunderwave is in front. Yeah, it's just
No, not in 5e. It Thunderwave is a circle like it used to be.
I'm pretty sure Thunderwave always
I'm
was a cube just in front of you specifically.
just gonna look this up real quick
Like
because
I'm pretty sure it was always a cube that you could again like aim in front of your. So I think is it because Thunderwave is the spell one, right?
no, it's a cube originating from you,
Wait, hang on a second though. Yeah, originating from you. 1 second,
which means
because I know
it comes
is it the
from.
cantrip one or the spelled one?
No, 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 no. This is the spell. They did it different in Baldur's Gate. This is
Well,
it's
no, no,
not
no, hang on a minute. Let me see a second. Spell. Oops, no, not that one. Thunderwave. Because yeah, it is a cube that originates.
originating from you in all directions.
Yeah, so if we do it the original 5e, each cube, each creature in a 15-foot cube originating from you, self.
Yeah, it's a wave. It goes in front and behind you. It's
Hmm.
not. They changed it for Baldur's Gate.
Well.
I'm letting you. That's how
Yeah,
it's always
and
been.
each creature in a fit. Well, but no, but here's the problem though, because with that, technically that would include you then too to have to make the save, which doesn't make any sense. It's a
Uh,
15-foot cube originating from you. It's not in a 15-foot like coming out. It's literally you thunder wave in front of you. It originates from you, but in a 15-foot cube.
well, can I be honest with you? The entirety I played 5e, we've always treated it
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like,
as like a
I,
circle around
I
you.
I remember when I first started playing, that's how we did it too. But then I remember at
Yeah,
one
I
point
guess
we
technically.
figured out because we asked that question, like, wait a minute, if it says it's like, wouldn't you have to also make the save then in that case? Which didn't make any sense. Because it's like, yeah, then you would
Oh
take the
yeah, no, you're
damage.
right.
Yeah.
Well, either way,
Yeah. So
the
it's clearly in
you could
front
have
of her, so
turned it.
she could have moved it then, So it's like, but it's still freaking hilarious either way. Um, but it is specifically like this is just nice. Like I like the fact that, parents and kids are playing and like you just have moments like this where, she lost track and it was, a bit of an oopsie, but luckily it didn't turn out that way. It was like it's a hilarious story now that you can tell people of just like a little bit of like a my bad. We also love the bard representation here too, yo. Anything else you got about this one, buddy?
No, I really loved the attitude of the dad, the DM. I think it was dad or no,
Yeah,
yeah,
the GM and the dad. Yeah, they're the same. Yeah.
no, yeah, the dad of this child who's DMing this game, like, because this kid could be anywhere from like I want to say what 9 or 10, like 8 to 12. No, eight to
No, 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 no,
ten.
because they're elementary school. So,
Well, no, it said upper elementary, lower middle, so
okay, you're
eight
right.
to
Early middle
eleven, maybe
school.
8 to 10.
Yeah. I would say like
These
8 to
are
11, 8 to 10.
children. I mean, like, I don't know how many 8 to 10 year olds you interact with. I try to avoid it myself. I work at a bar. I'm not actually. I interact with a lot of them at another place I work at because there's mini golf.
Mhm.
Um, they're not, known for their acceptance of certain things or like just the attitude to kind of take it as it comes.
Yeah, it depends on the
Um,
child, but yes, usually they can come across as being a little less than emotionally mature.
but I gotta say, I want to, like, it's really funny. It seemed like the kid was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, shit
I
happens.
mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you have a dad who plays Tomb of Annihilation, like, and again, who thought it was hilarious, if you have a dad who allows someone to accidentally blast you with Thunderwave, like you know that this I have a decent impression that his daughter is like, I'm used to this. This isn't even the worst thing that's ever happened to my characters. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, it must be something
that's
like
what I'm
that.
saying. I would not at all doubt like this dad has taken her through like maybe they've done some duets or something and he has taught her like, you know what? Maybe don't be super attached to all of your characters. And you know what? I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing depending on how they do it, but either way, it definitely makes for a funny story or moment here for certain. But hey, I think that's all we got for this one here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next story of the day. And this one is titled Consequences. Never heard of it. By Flock, who's apparently dubbed a roll fudger for some reason. Interesting. We're looking at you closely, Flock, scrutinizing the hell out of you. Let's see what you got for us, bud. I was playing in a sandbox RPG campaign, and one of the other players had a set of very zany and confusing behaviors that honestly still leave me puzzled. Well, tell us about them, friend. For one, she often chose to have all of her characters act in an exaggeratingly rude way to NPCs, unprompted and without any good reason. Instead of holding any proper discussion about any subjects at hand with those she met, she would instead rather consistently shift the focus of the conversation to being highly personally charged as she insulted and critiqued the NPC. Ooh, that's never a fun kind of individual to interact with. At least just statistically speaking. No matter who or what it was, she always did this. Yeesh. It should come as no surprise to her, then, that some of the more unsavory NPCs reacted with a rather loving, compassionate murder attempt. She kept dying many times because of essentially going out of her way to step on everyone's toes at every possible chance she could, and actively doing her best to push away those that wanted to help her regardless, and consciously put up with her shenanigans. She said she was having fun nonetheless, though, so hey, more power to her, right? Well, later on, she complained that the other players were much more progressed and powerful than she was, and that they were being favoritized. My friend, you are the one that continues making yourself as much of a target as possible? What else do you expect? What are you talking about right now? As for her apparent aspirations at being a one-man army, those were also questionably attempted. The GM tried to include her and let her have moments in the spotlight, and they really did, truly. Except when met with things like bonus skills and attribute points, she would invest them in useless stats that were completely irrelevant or irrelevant to her build. When granted talent points, she would get a large amount of unupgraded weak talents as opposed to getting a small but upgraded and strong repertoire of talents. So, any encounter just resulted in her character being squished like a wet pancake. Oof. Finally, she had decided that her character's memories somehow persisted across their deaths, and that they were aware of being the same person as they were previously, but just simply reincarnated in a different form. Now, this wasn't against the rules, but it was rather immersion breaking since there was no basis for any of it, making many of us unwilling to roleplay with her characters. We tried suggesting her to change her habits so that she could find more success, but she simply refused, since she, for some reason, found it appealing to be this extremely unconventional and strange style of player and character building. All I'm left at this point is wondering why? Why? Why?
Wow.
Why? Just what a strange individual indeed. Hey, well, at least she had fun, right? In post. What do you think, buddy?
I don't know if I could handle that kind of.
Someone who's just deliberately being a professional douche on the regular to just
Yeah,
everybody? Like,
I guess that is the best way to put it.
just being an
Like,
absolute turd burglar? Like, just like,
and
yeah.
I'm not a big fan of characters that are just the same person again and again and again and again and again. So,
Yeah, that is also rather I like, especially when the player themselves starts to act in a way that is like confused at why they might not be getting as much, consideration or favoritism or spotlight when it's like you're making characters that are basically all the same exact person, and that person just so happens to be an absolutely insufferable, aggravating annoyance to basically every single other creature that they come in contact with. And then you question why you might be getting less than favorable interactions. Like, oh, what
yeah,
what do you
I
what
mean,
do you mean?
some
I'm being a
some people
douchebag. What?
some people use D&D to act out or just be impulsive and do whatever first comes to
Crazy. Yeah,
mind.
just
And
basically to let loose all those intrusive thoughts that, you'd be maybe a little less inclined to reveal in real life. Which, but you know what? To be fair, I do appreciate the fact it seems, the GM, he wasn't having it, he wasn't just putting up with it. Like, she apparently got assassinated on more than one occasion due to her personal choice of personality. But apparently, aside from the fact that she just felt, a little bit left behind and a little less spotlighted, she, I guess, had fun. So, you know what? Okay, you know what? Here's the thing, right? It can definitely be fun and funny to have those meme characters who are like absolutely insufferable and aggravating and annoying, as we just said, but who always get like their comeuppance, right? Like they act really arrogant, conceited, and assholish, but then they immediately get karma to come and fuck with them constantly, right? Like, yeah, that can be kind of funny and entertaining, but I would say only up to a point after a while. Especially, it also highly depends on just how disruptive those characters would be to the overall party and narrative as a whole, right? If you're like sabotaging the party and doing shit like that, that's one thing. If you're just kind of role playing a bit of an asshole who just, basically just, hey, oh, well, look, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions again, like if it's just that, then it's like, cool, once or twice is funny and hilarious. But to make it basically the entire, like, paradigm of your character, over and over again, yeah, it gets old real quick. It gets old real quick.
It very much does. And it's like
And
there's
yeah.
nothing even I don't know, there's nothing even like super
Well,
oh
you're not building on anything. You're just static.
no.
It's just, there's nothing, there's no progression, there's no evolution, there's no growth. It's just static. And then you just kind of, and then again, on top of that, if you want to complain as a player on top, then we got a problem. Then I'm like, all right, look, you said you were having fun with this. These are your choices, these are your decisions. And yeah, your choices and decisions have consequences, and you're gonna have to live, or rather, in this case, unlive with them. So yeah, you get it, buddy. Yeah, see, he gets it. Like, good boy. Yeah, you wouldn't take no bullshit from no douchebaggy, insufferable whelp, would you? Uh, but that's just how it be, like, but hey, if she's having fun with it, I guess and if she's, as long as she wasn't disrupting or harming anyone else, hey, who are we to judge, right? More power to you, I guess. Do you. Bit masochistic, but hey, you know what? No kink shame, but no kink same. That's all. That's what we say here on the Arcane Archive. You know what I mean? We got some of like comments down below, which is interesting for this guy. One of the top commenter goes, "I've had experience with players who view the game as a chance to be as impulsive, goofy, and crazy as possible, and then don't understand why others get annoyed with them." And I think of the time when many, many, many years ago, when I was in high school, I was DMing my very first campaign. And in the adventure, it was a mission where the party had to rescue a prince's intended bride who had been kidnapped, as they, usually tend to be. When I explained the situation, the players just shrugged and sniffed. And one even said, well, so what? He just needs to find someone else. I just sat and stared for a little while, appalled that they would be just so crass and dismissive. I don't recall exactly how, but I did manage to get them interested in the adventure. I think by pointing out she was kidnapped by evil people, and as good aligned players, they had a duty, etc., etc. I admit I wasn't a very good GM back then, but I was only a teenager. The campaign went off the rails not long after that. I mean, yeah, you kind of already should have seen that coming from the red flags. When the players straight up murdered a helpless slave girl chained to the wall. Jesus, that did escalate rather quickly. They just jumped in and killed her without thinking and gave me excuses like, well, we thought she was a shape-changed wizard or something. Or we were afraid she'd tell someone about us. What were you doing? Shoot, okay. And I was just disgusted with them. Never look at them the same way after that. It's true. Some people are kind of just effed in the head, right? Like Sam just said. Some people they utilize, and again, right? D&D is a form of escapism, right? And a form of living out maybe certain fantasies that you can't have easily in the real world. And some people it is a more so a you know an intrusive thought simulator, right? Where you just let that monkey brain take over and you just like ah! Or people even do so with the explicit desire for shock value, right? You have trollish
Yeah.
people who do crazy, wacky, effed up stuff just to see what the reaction will be from the people around them. You know, some people are just effed up like that. It sucks a lot, like legitimately. But it is unfortunately also just the reality that we have to accept. Some people are just effed up in really stupid, dumb ways, you know? Uh, yeah.
It's yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this isn't really, you don't. It's not a good enough. Like I wouldn't even want to play with someone like that. So I don't understand the like I wouldn't have even stayed if that was the if one of the players in my game was just like, I'm just gonna do stupid shit. I don't know about you, but
I'm not too much of a fan of that myself. Look, if you're playing like a one shot that's maybe even like expected or designed to be kind of
that's different.
light-hearted, yeah, like non-serious, like it's kind of meant to just be like, literally just a one-off little thing. Sure, bring your wildest, zaniest, most ridiculous, stupid character and concept, and you can maybe do some stupid, dumb, crazy, weird shit, I guess. If you're trying to be funny and ridiculous, sure, I've done those before. I think, anybody who has played some one shot, like we've all had those one shots where you're just like, yeah, we're just being stupid and dumb and whatever because, it's a one shot. Why not? Um, but when you're actually in a campaign, and if it's more so a long form campaign, it's like, why are you doing that? Like, this is supposed to be a little bit more grounded and rooted. You know what I mean? We're here for the long haul, meaning your actions actually will have legitimate consequences or could slash should. Like, you should treat this like a much more fully fleshed out, developed world because that is what it is intended to be. If you're just living in like, an isolated, almost like a seemingly like, you know, a linear little short thing where, yeah, none of what you do matters. Yeah, go nuts, go wild, whatever. But doing all this, just being this just as ridiculous and crazy for no damn reason, not a great look in a long-term campaign where you're actually trying to maybe establish a real narrative together with your friends and fellow players. Uh, but yeah, I do believe that is probably all about we got for this one, y'all. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, Sammy.
Yeah, I have one that's just personally frustrating. Um, by Dex Taurus. Player doesn't like the schedule we built for him. Let me start off by saying the issue at this point in time has already been resolved. Everyone in the group is all hunky dory, we're all still friends, and no one holds it against anyone. With that said, let's rewind. Everyone can agree that scheduling can be chaotic when it comes to D&D or any TTRPG. However, communication is key. Something that I'll admit was lacking on my end, but since then I've been doing better and have been going out of my way to make sure I'm more vigilant of. So, a little over a couple months ago, a few of our players more or less came to the consensus of wanting to skip every other week. Basically, player A wants to skip every other session to play Guild Wars with one of our other friends. Player B both runs a campaign on the same day as I do and is in one on Saturdays, and just kind of wants to decompress from the stressful week she's had. And player C is just going through some shit that he wants to process it, outside of the game. After a little bit of coordination and a couple of day trips our group had taken, the player in question explicitly tells us he will be skipping 3 weeks in a row because he wants to not only readjust his schedule, but to catch up and play Guild Wars. Okay. 3 weeks out from now, we'll alternate sessions. That makes sense to me.
I mean, sure,
We'll have
sure.
3 weeks off and then we'll be alternating.
Yeah. All right.
This more or less lined up perfect because I was contemplating starting a second campaign, and I figured might as well have a main game on days when everyone is there rather than only sometimes. Here's where things go from tardy to retardy. That's a great line. Uh, that's awesome.
I'll give him some credit. That is a pretty
That's pretty good.
decent. Yeah, like we're just talking about like linguistical prowess right there. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
I appreciated that little segue.
For context, this is all more or less going down on the 9th and the 12th, aka the third week. This guy said he'd be skipping. Now, most of us were already in agreement that there would be no session for my main game on the 11th because A, we were under the assumption that the player in question would be skipping, and the other players who wanted to take the day off. B, we didn't really have a venue to hold it at. And C, I already coordinated with my second group to hold my new campaign on the 11th. So it starts on the 9th when I receive a message from the player in question, and it more or less tells me last fucking minute saying that we, quote, misunderstood what he meant. That the schedule we've been bending over backwards to accommodate him won't do it, and he basically
He
wants
wants
the
the
days he
days.
will attend to be on the days he has these so-called appointments that he has every other Friday. So by proxy, that would mean that the 11th he would be able to attend the session, but would skip the 18th and so on. Primarily because he wanted to maximize the time he's outside and supposedly save money on gas. Okay, fair, but really? Right now? Had he told me Monday the 7th, I'd been able to message my second group and say, hey, we are going to skip this week and do alternating ones starting the 18th instead. Instead, Harry Potter and the audacity of this bitch tells me Wednesday the 9th, which is literally impossible for me to do, and apparently these appointments are only just now a problem with the schedule. Why didn't you bring it up in the group, either in DMs or in our Discord server? Is it too hard to say, hey guys, I have appointments every other Friday. Can we line up the alternating weeks on those days? Where it, where it all more or less blows up is on the 12th, aka that Saturday, after I'd already done my session with my new group. Basically, because we were all working under the assumption that this player was skipping for 3 weeks, we had lined up our schedules perfectly. Or I'd post on our Discord server about plans for this coming Friday, the 18th, and who's coming, who's available, etc. I found out that pretty much everyone in the group had taken extra time to accommodate this player's schedule and have already made preparations with their respective groups. And that puts me in a rough spot because functionally, it would mean if we had our regular session the 18th and alternated, one, if not more, of our players would drop out because they were skipping the days we were supposed to have a session. This is when he straight up lied to all of us and said, I never said I couldn't make it. No, you explicitly told us you were skipping to play Guild Wars with another person. And you just expect the other four different worlds we've literally moved specifically for him just to tell us, oh, yeah, I don't like the schedule, change it.
Yeah,
And
nah,
then
nah,
proceeds to
bro.
blame one of our players and say, oh, well, I guess that just means I won't be saving money on gas anytime soon. Motherfucker, this is exactly why we're doing this. Why didn't you tell us any of this earlier? All of this literally could have been resolved weeks prior had you communicated with the group. And this
Nah,
more or
bro.
less puts me in a rough spot as not only a DM, but as the middleman because he told me rather than telling the group and was basically trying to cherry pick what days he wants to come rather than sticking to the plan we literally laid out for him. And this isn't the first time we've had a plan and he decides, nah, fuck it, do it this way. Needless to say, I was beyond pissed and frustrated, as were other people too, since this is literally what we were trying to avoid. I was already having a shitty Saturday, and this didn't help the matter. I was so angry, I literally had to walk away and not touch Discord for the rest of the day because I was liable of reaching through the screen to strangle this motherfucker and yeet him off a mountain into a ravine, which already made three of us.
Hey man, I'm with them so far, bro. This is absolutely asinine, dude. This
The
is like,
problem wasn't that he had these appointments or that he wanted to alternate or min-max the mileage out of his vehicle. It's the fact that he didn't tell us sooner, or at the very least follow up with us and then made me the middleman for his problems. All to say, communication is the key to literally everything. This is what drives people to become werewolves when you don't tell them sooner rather than later. Since then, the player in question has resolved this issue privately in DMs with a couple of the other players, which I am all for it because my ultimatum would have been I'm holding alternate sessions. You can decide whether you want to come or not. This doesn't take care of the frustration involved in it, nor does this post really do it justice, but at least I am calm enough not to burst a blood vessel just thinking about it now.
good for you, OP.
Yeah.
You got it out. You this is clearly far more of a vent post than anything.
Oh yeah.
Which I'm all for. We are all for here for that. Good for you. 'Cause yeah, that whole situation sounds just astronomically frustrating and annoying. Like quite frankly, I don't know why you put up with it as long as you have. up to this point. Like I would have literally, as soon as the dude had said some shit, like, just a couple days in advance about, oh yeah, this doesn't work for me, I would have been like, yo, tough titties, my
Well,
friend.
that's the reality.
You
Like
you can either show up or not, I guess. On
real
you,
life
bro.
shit, like on some real life shit. How are you so ignorant? Like that would piss me off. And I've had, some issues with scheduling and some things that have bothered me throughout my years with the same people. And luckily I've never gotten to this point where it's just like fuck it, fuck this, you know. Um but like dude, it can be extremely
Oh yeah, no.
frustrating
Yeah.
where you just have
It,
people that don't seem to understand that like everybody else is bending over backwards for you and you can't even take 2 fucking minutes out of
just
your actually not that busy schedule to just communicate.
communicate. Just
Because like no
communicate.
offense, and I don't want to be that guy and say it's not important, but I'm sorry. One of these so-called important things you had to take care of was to go play
Guild
fucking Guild
Wars.
Wars, which isn't even a relevant game anymore.
uh,
Like it's Guild War. Like I get it.
it's not even Guild.
MMO.
I mean, I would. Is it Guild Wars 2 at least? I mean, if it's
It's
just
Guild Wars
like,
2 now. But
yeah,
you know what? You know what
but
pisses me off? Well, my problem is I can't relate to those MMO motherfuckers because I just don't get it.
yeah,
I
no.
have friends who play Final Fantasy and like the Final
Yeah,
Fantasy
yeah, yeah,
14.
14. Yeah, no, I know.
I, for the fucking life of me,
Yeah.
cannot understand the
I
draw to these fucking games.
no,
Like, especially if
I
you
no,
have if
same.
you have even a semblance of a social life in real life, um, you're putting it at risk by playing this
I was
fucking
gonna say,
shit.
well, I mean, anything like even like World of Warcraft, right? The
Nobody
vast.
plays World of Warcraft anymore. At least
Oh
no
no,
one
no,
I
no,
actually
they
know.
they 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 do. There's
No, but like
still.
it's not like it was.
I mean, it's not necessarily maybe as huge of a cultural thing because people have also realized kind of the detriment to it too. This, I mean, World of Warcraft still has a shit ton of players,
Oh, I
like,
know, but it's
but
far from their heyday. Is all I'm
sure,
trying to
sure,
say.
but it is still very much relevant in terms of like you got to put in so much fucking time and work.
That's any MMO now.
That's what I'm saying though. But World of Warcraft was like arguably kind of the first big one, where
Oh
like
yeah,
that was like the most like where like they really kind of pioneered a lot of that the whole MMO genre back in the day. In turn, like them and RuneScape too. RuneScape was another one. Which ironically they just came up with a new RuneScape actually recently too,
yeah.
which
I
is
may or may not have bought it.
oh really, Mister? I don't play
It's not
MMO.
an
I
MMO.
don't.
It's like a Valheim clone,
Yeah, still technically
and
an
I
MMO,
no,
but
not the same way.
not quite the same way. Sure, like same thing. I loved Warframe back in the day, which is like technically an
Oh, I can't
MMO.
say, dude. I can't talk too much shit. I did play Destiny for a solid like six
Shit,
years.
yeah. I played Destiny for a little bit
I
of
quit
time, but
though.
I
I
just,
quit. Like I did actually
yeah,
quit.
no, I quit pretty soon after I played Destiny,
I
honestly.
played
So
through like 4 expansions, so
I
I
just,
can't really say too
I
much.
did not like, I
It was
barely made it
fun
even
though.
through one. Like,
Made a
yeah,
lot of friends through Destiny.
it
And
had some fun moments. I made probably more enemies than friends through certain Destiny raids and stuff at times. But either way. Yes, MMOs and stuff like that, like to essentially to prioritize that shit over this, over like, yo, these people again, everybody here, the whole point of D&D, one of the biggest aspects about it is that it is a commitment. It is a commitment. Like you are committing your time as well as committing to be considerate of everyone else's time to this activity, to this hobby that we are doing. We're like this is the whole point. You're playing with a number of other people, so you're trying to all be accommodating for each other. And so therefore you have to be considerate of other people who are compromising for everyone's schedule, trying to make this happen to enjoy this thing that we all apparently really love and care about and are passionate about. Like and for you to be so incredibly, completely selfish and dismissive of everyone else and everything else aside from your own, like, like we don't know your full story or your full situation, but quite frankly, fuck off. Like, everybody's got shit. Everybody's got stuff that they're trying to handle and work through or whatever the hell. And if you're literally sitting here just completely taking advantage or trying to basically be like, yeah, well, this isn't perfectly convenient and like precise for me. So yeah, no, we're gonna change it. Like you can kindly go eat a fat steaming cock, okay? Just straight up, bro. Eat a dick, all right? F off. You want to play? You can now figure your shit out so that you can play. Switch your appointments or whatever the hell to the alternating days or whatever that do work. Okay?
Like that.
Or
I,
don't and F off. Like,
and you're not wrong. Like that's the hard part. Is like,
just communicate, talk. Like you said, they would have even been cool with maybe like adjusting if he had just done it sooner. Get on your shit. And if something happened, right? If life happens, because that does, life can happen out of nowhere in the most inconvenient of times. In fact, that is often the case in my experience. If that's the case, then you can say that, but then apologize profusely. So like, hey, I'm so sorry, you guys. Like I an unexpected variable popped up. I didn't have any control over it. This is apparently now the only time. Like I thought it was gonna be this, but some shit happened and now it's this. Is there any way that we could accommodate and just switch it up? Again, I sincerely apologize. And if they can't, you shouldn't expect them to. That's the biggest thing. You should not expect them to. But if they can, awesome, amazing. And if they can't, then maybe that just means that you cannot play in this campaign. It's as simple as that. Period. Like, yo, just it ain't it ain't rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. Just communicate. Just speak to people. Respectfully, considerately, like, just baseline level. You don't have to bend over backwards. You don't have to get trampled on like a doormat. That's not being considerate and respectful. Being considerate and respectful is just baseline having awareness that it's not just you living in this world. You are not the center of the goddamn universe to which everything else revolves and responds and caters to. That's about it. That's, you know, people like this are some of the absolute worst. And not even be,
that's
yeah, and not even because they're like they did anything horrible, but just because of the utmost just ignorance. Just the unmitigated ignorance. Anything else you got about this one, buddy? All right, let's move on to the next one. Paladin goes off on Druid for casting Firewall to kill gnolls by Le Fior Sauvage Gaming. Ooh, that sounds like a professional little thing there. Uh, Online D&D game. I am playing a Wildfire Druid. Lots of fire, lots are. I think they meant to say lots of healing, but it says losts of healing. Lots of fire, lots of healing. Ashes to allies. She is from a small city nestled deep in the woods and grew up in the monastery of the local forest goddess. Standard fantasy fare, you know. She acts like a priest of a nature goddess and steward of the natural cycle of the forest. The paladin throughout the game. Yeah, why isn't she wearing armor and wild shaping? You're playing a druid, not a wizard. You shouldn't be casting all those spells. Your character shouldn't care about what's in books. They're made of trees. You should hate libraries. Why does your character have a home in the city? She should live in the wild. Well, fast forward to today, we were surrounded by gnolls, our backs against a ravine wall, and I waited until the last second and upcast firewall in an arc completely around us and straight through the middle of the gnolls. It was a glorious moment of a druid pulling some serious druid shit out the air, further enhanced by her wildfire perks. The gnolls were absolutely effed in the A. The ones that didn't burn to death the second was cast ran off in fear and terror, and were then murdered by scorching rays and arrows from our ranger before they were able to get out of range. The annoying player, however, had gone down 3 times in the fight because he didn't pay attention to the cleric when he was told not to break sanctuary until the cleric could actually drop a real heal on him. The second time, he got picked up as collateral from a mass healing word, and the third time, we were not going to bother because he was just going to do something stupid himself to death again. Now, he
yes.
was angry at me. Yeah, Paladin really, really catering to the stereotypes of lawful stupid here. He was angry at me now because firewall's supposed to be a defensive spell. It has wall in its name. You should have used that spell slot to cast heal on me so I could have fought them. I'm the paladin. He then went on to lecture me. Druids are about area control, not about killing. Blah, 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 blah. Finally, I just snapped. Yo, shut the F up, you tool. If they are so cooked that savages who like well done steaks are showing up because they smell the charcoal, then the area is goddamn controlled, you absolute troglodyte. He immediately
Oh,
blocked me on Discord after that, and is apparently asking the GM to kick me from the game right now as we speak for using the F word and calling him a tool. Funny enough, as I wrote this out, and just before clicking post, the GM announces that the Paladin has retired from the game. End post. Yeah, I thought this one was pretty funny when I read through it before. Yeah, what do you think of this whole scenario situation, my friend?
uh, I I personally am very okay with this use of the F word and troglodyte.
Well, I threw that in there myself, to be fair, but I felt like
Oh, I know. I liked yours though.
I
It's
appreciate
great.
that. Thank
It's
you.
great.
I felt like honestly that was the impression I was getting that you wanted to say. Um,
I guess like for me, I just I don't like dealing with people who can't seem to just get a grip on the fact that it's like you're not controlling my character as well. I,
I don't
I don't
think
know, like
there's yeah, I don't think there's anything quite probably as like just mind-bogglingly asinine as another player or even the GM trying to tell you how to control or act your character. Like if of course in case if you're doing what you're supposed to do, right? Like barring anything where you're actually literally like you're a rogue and you're not using sneak attack or you're not sneaking at all or you're a wizard who's attacking people with like a staff instead of casting spells or anything like that, right? Barring where you are literally maybe like not doing anything that your class is actually supposed to do. It is absolutely insane for a person to be like, you can't do that when even what you did was like one of the most effective things you possibly could have done.
like a
Like,
super strategic, really good thing. I don't know. Like what's funny to me is like they're talking about, oh, you should have used that to cast a heal spell. Druids are one of the best area of effect casters in fifth edition. Um, that they're actually more control casters than they are healers.
yep,
So like
very much
that's you're
so.
not even doing it right.
I mean, to be
If you
fair,
had
he did say that there is about control, but OP brought up a great rebuttal in that, yeah, if all of the enemies are currently scorching, smoking wrecks on the ground, the area has been pretty goddamn well controlled.
well,
Like,
it's like even then, what I mean is like I would get it maybe if you got really frustrated because you had a cleric that just refused to cast healing spells and would
sure.
just all they did was like cast Fire Strike or they
Yeah,
weren't.
agreed, sure. Well, I mean, to be fair, druids do have some of the best healing in the game as well, but also the issue being too is healing means absolutely zilch if
If you're not even doing it right.
yeah, or if after you get healed, you're not being strategic enough where that healing essentially meant nothing. You just took
That
yourself
too.
down immediately. Like healing means absolutely zilch if it's like, hey, you can't beat your enemy by healing all the time. For one, for two, if you heal someone and they immediately go down, you effectively what was that? You just wasted that spell slot in healing for nothing. Like it effectively meant nothing. You just wasted magic on that. Where you could have done activating a concentration spell that deals continuous damage to a wide area
And
of
also
enemies and
gets rid of
effects.
sight lines and the
Yep.
ability for if you're all of you are on the one side of the wall, it kind of defeats the like they can't come and attack you willingly unless they're gonna take a bunch of damage. So
Yep.
you've now given your whole group an opportunity to maybe heal. So like in a way, you're kind of setting up for that anyway.
You could
Also,
be.
like I can't help but notice that like paladins can also heal themselves. So
Well, not if they're unconscious, but still,
No, I just meant in general. Like,
but that's the point, right? He, instead of him, yeah, getting healed and be like, you know what? I'm gonna then heal myself, like lay on hands or cure wounds or whatever else to keep to get. He's like, no, you should have healed me so that I could go and fight them because I'm the paladin. I'm the main character.
but yeah, that's also a
That's
problem.
that's what it was
Like,
about. It wasn't about the fact that you didn't heal. It was about the fact that he feels he's the main character. He wanted to shine, and he was the weakest link of the entire party by the sounds of it.
look, I'll
So,
be honest, it can be frustrating
little
when
bitch
like
boy.
when you're like if you're doing really well and you get caught out, you're doing a lot of damage, but you need some help surviving, and then they just completely ignore that fact. But like,
True.
it hasn't happened in my group, except maybe
Yep.
like one time in the entirety I've played with the same group. Like, it's really hard to completely get ignored by your group like that because that means they just
They don't give a shit, and it's not a great feeling. It's not a great feeling to be ignored. But the thing being was he wasn't ignored. He was initially like focused on that the cleric in the group. There is a cleric too, also in the group. Literally told him like, "Hey, let the sanctuary do its job to help protect you, and then next round I can drop like an actual real heal on you. But for now, just relax." Like, chill for a second. Again, strategically, or even with the because again with the sanctuary, like we just said, he could have healed himself. He could have healed himself first,
yeah.
and then the cleric could have dropped even more of a heals, which buffs him up even more. And then next round he goes in there. And again, it's not a guarantee that he won't get attacked by some enemies, but it drastically increases his odds of staying up, regardless, with that both having sanctuary, doing some self heal, and then some heal later on, again with the mass healing word. But immediately he got down again. He went in like an idiot. He got dropped from breaking sanctuary. He got brought out by mass healing word, and what happened? He apparently got dropped immediately again. At that point, it is a waste to heal you. At that point, you have become more of a liability that I'm literally just wasting spell slots into the void for. I'm just throwing spell slots into the void for you.
Like,
And,
thank you, I've wasted my time.
like I'm not my resources even more so. We all know in D&D 5e and now even in 5.5, action economy is king. More
It's
action
literally everything.
more actions you got that are actually effective, and I mean effective, that is what makes or breaks any encounter for the most part. And if you're wasting your actions, effectively doing nothing, you have significantly reduced your odds of not only surviving but winning any encounter. And he showed himself to be a complete and utter detriment to action economy with his stupidity and horrible strategic, if he even has strategic skills at all.
Doesn't sound
But
like it.
yeah, so honestly, super happy that you gave him what 4 OP. If you ever see this, good for you for shutting his shit down because he was a little whiny bitch boy who needed to be put in his place and thrown the f out. Which sounds like the trash got taken out, and we love it. We love that when that happens. I feel this is more of a glory story, really, than a horror story, personally.
It is if you think about
Quite frankly.
it.
Uh, well, anything else you got to say about this one, buddy?
No, I think we went over all the good bits, all of
Perfect.
the spicy good bits.
Then with that being the case, why don't you go ahead and take us home, my man?
All right, I'll take you home. By our last story of the day by the Fox and the Raven, had a player issue an ultimatum to me, parentheses the DM, during a session.
We love those. We love those. Let's see what kind of ultimatum we're working with here.
I feel like this is fairly mild as RPG horror stories go, but it still threw me for a loop. This past Friday, I ran a session with my players exploring an abandoned cursed city. We had left
Like it.
off the previous week with the party having made their way inside and then proceeded to get lost. As the
As you
buildings
do.
seemed to shift around them. They had
Ooh.
just made it to an inn with a glowing golden light inside and a face looking out at them from a window. The inn was a protected safe zone, made so by an act of divine intervention on behalf of a paladin inside. The character looking at the window was a new player who was just joining the group. This week we picked back up with some discussion between characters about plans for navigating the city. an introduction to the new character, etc. They had a little downtime for preparations before turning in for the night, and then I had the party's employer, a witch, visit the new character in a dream. We got to learn the new character's motivation as a deal was struck in exchange for their services in helping the party on their quest to retrieve a MacGuffin. Throughout this, the problem player kept cutting others off and trying to rush things along. Quote, yeah, yeah, we all go to sleep and wake up rested, and now we're exploring the city. And great, we carry out the plan we made and we get to where we're headed. What's next? In the midst of other characters still talking to NPCs, gathering information, or role playing amongst themselves as they talk to the new character. I had an eye at the clock, and things were moving along at a good pace. We just had some story things that had to play out. That wasn't sitting well with this player, who just continued to be rude and pushy. It got to the point where two other players were actively DMing me asking what was up with the guy. The paladin makes a show of taking down the barrier protecting the inn, and the party sets out, quickly getting lost by the shifting buildings. They had surmised the light was part of that light was part of the solution. Ooh,
I'm liking the setups though. Like I'm
yeah.
already gonna give you
The
kudos, GM. I love the
the
labyrinthine kind
concept
of
is,
city.
yeah. As the city was blanketed by heavy clouds, and the days were being perceived as being unnaturally shortened. But they initially held off on using either the Druid's daylight spell or a magical orb I had given them previously, for fear that the resources would need to be conserved. Finally, they had chose to cast daylight on the problem player's arrow while the rogue climbed a nearby building, fire the arrow, and revealing a path forward that gave the rogue a brief glimpse of the true layout of the city's streets. That's when things came to a head. The problem player cutting off the rogue mid-sentence as he was telling the party what he saw. Great, sunlight was the answer. We get to the castle at the center of the city. What do we find? DM, hold on. Or DM, hold on. Rogue, you were saying? Problem player. If the next words out of your mouth aren't "you arrive at the castle," then I'm gone. DM, are you kidding me? Rogue, you climb back down the rope to the street below, and the Discord chimes as the problem player disconnects. If only it was over that easy. The shadows then fly out from between the nearby buildings like a black, inky liquid. The many streams of shadow pool together in the street ahead, and the liquid begins to drip upwards, forming itself into the shape of a figure. So, 30 seconds after the impatient asshole disconnects, we were rolling for initiative for the combat that he apparently couldn't wait to get into. He started texting me immediately afterwards. I sent him a message saying that I'd reach out in a few days to talk, but I didn't want to waste any more time on him. I was and still am annoyed. I apologized to the other players, and we carried on. The new player in her first ever D&D combat did a great job in the opening rounds and will pick up mid-counter this upcoming Friday. I love it.
Okay. So
I love it because for me, like this is something like I do partially understand. Sometimes D&D it gets bogged down, it gets
I was
slow.
gonna say, like, yeah, for
But
sure.
but
Like,
there's one thing being frustrated with it, and it's a whole another thing to be not only rude, but cut people
I was gonna
off.
say actively disruptive
Yeah,
is
you're
really
making
what it
it
is.
worse. Like that's the funny thing. You're talking about how you want things to happen, but you're actively being a disruption at the table,
Like
which is
I
not going to help you.
yeah, like again, totally get it. I often do kind of find myself at times trying to be the one that can push, the actual narrative along because yeah, like Sam said, and definitely in the campaign I'm a part of right now, we absolutely can have a tendency to go off on tangents and jokes and everything. And I'm guilty of that as well. You know what I mean? Like I definitely recognize, I also can play into that at times too, because again, it can be fun, right? You're in the middle, you're role playing, but that's also why I try to also recognize and be like, okay, we need to move on. We do need to, we do need to kind of keep going and get going, um, to push the narrative forward. But there is also absolutely something to be said about role playing, right? It's one of the three pillars. It's one of the biggest aspects of the game itself. It's literally part of the genre. Tabletop role playing game. You're gonna have to role play. I definitely do love combat and but it is also clear that the GM put a lot of thought into this whole area, right? Because that's the other
Yeah.
pillar,
Dude, see,
exploration.
I'm out here like, dude, you're talking moving buildings and
That's a
weird
fucking
shadowy curved
incredible. It's a
cities.
labyrinthian city. Like I love that. That's an amazing concept. I would love to play in an abandoned, like ancient labyrinthian city that moves around and shit like a maze, you know? Ah, that would be so fucking cool.
It sounds
Like,
really cool and fun. Even if it's not like as fun as we think it sounds.
sure, the
Even
concept
if it's
itself, yeah.
but like even then it's someone who's putting in a lot of effort.
Exactly. Why and
And
explore, you know? Try to reward that effort they're putting
well
in.
also like who knows, dude, that you have a new player at the table. Like that kind of role playing stuff is super important. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. It can be frustrating, sure, but like at the same time, if you want to continue playing it in a game, wouldn't getting to know the new player, like not the person, but the character, be super important anyway? Like I just don't.
I
Maybe
mean,
maybe I'm having a disconnect, but like I don't know. That would be my number one priority. Is like, oh, new person in the group.
be one of them to help make him feel welcomed,
Well, not
accepted,
even
like,
that. It's just
.
like even if my character isn't going to get along with your character, we should still have those interactions, considering the two characters don't know each other.
True, agreed.
Like
You want to figure out like what their
even if you're
motivations
not,
are.
even if it's not like oh we're best friends now, even if it is more of a rivalry or an at odds relationship at the beginning, aren't that isn't that like kind of the fun part about role playing and like playing role playing games is like that stuff actually comes up and matters. Like maybe I'm crazy, I don't know.
I don't know. And I get it. Some people do just love the combat aspect for the most part, right? And I love combat too. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the most fun, awesome parts of the game. And I do at times wish, that we could have more combat, but it is also ultimately up kind of to the GM in terms of how they are setting up encounters, right? Where it's like, if you're playing a character who isn't just psychotically chaotic evil, you're not necessarily going to be getting into combat often, right? Think about it like in real life, right? People don't often try to get into fisticuffs with every freaking person that they talk and interact with on the street, right? People usually actively try to avoid that, in fact. So even in this world where, yeah, you're technically like super badass, powerful chosen ones with magic and superpowers, it's like, well, you still also don't want to start causing just random problems and issues with the world because that's then gonna probably have consequences. You remember that thing we talked about a little while ago? Consequences. So, you wanna usually have that role play element. And obviously it is kind of up to the GM to maybe provide the players with more active encounters, right? For me, I usually try to give, opportunities for combat pretty often in terms of like, hey, you got kind of some altercations in the street, right? If you're in a city, you ran into a city, you did some role play, you've been checking around. Oh, a street fight or a bar brawl breaks out, right? You can get involved in that then, and start fighting. Maybe there's maybe you encountered a random, assassination attempt, or oh, you're out in the woods or the wilds. You encounter, you roll the random encounters, or you just make your random encounters, and you encounter some wolves, goblins, bandits. There's so many things you can just do. You know what I mean? To throw in some combat and stuff. But clearly, the OP made a really cool, badass, labyrinth maze city that he's like, yo, I would assume there could have been at least a lot of problems. He literally made, freaking Baldur's Gate 3 style a safe zone inside of there from a divine intervention from a god, right?
That's cool as fuck.
Like that's not only badass, but it would also stand to reason then that there are a lot of deadly, dangerous entities and creatures maybe prowling through this ancient city that you need a safe zone from. So, maybe the GM could have thrown in some things, perhaps, but at the same token, role play does take a while. Like when you get into a conversation, especially depending on like all the information that maybe needs to be said or that players are going to try and siphon from or, ask questions about, role play can be an extended instance and circumstance. It's true. But the whole point is that if you really want to love this game, like again, like if you just care about the numbers, you just want go play a video game though. Like that's the biggest thing that I would have said. Like if you're just looking to just go through and shred shit, go play Diablo or any other, roguelite type of game where you just, you're just dungeon delving and you're just getting numbers. You're all you're really doing is just combat, is you're just fighting. You're just melting things to get more loot, to melt more things or whatever. Like
Yeah.
go play a video game. The whole point, again, it is literally labeled tabletop role playing game. It's in the title. It's gonna be a huge part of the game. That is supposed to be the appeal. And if that doesn't appeal to you, then go play a video game.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah, 100%.
Like, and the fact that he's just being so like, here's the thing: if you want more combat, there's a much better, more reasonable, considerate, respectful way to go about trying to get it than what this guy did. He was just being an absolute asshat. He was just being a douche canoe. Like, really? Come on, man. Again, communicate. Ain't rocket science, acolytes. It's not rocket science. Anything else you got about this one, buddy?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward.
Well, with that, then, everyone, I do believe that that's all we have for you today. If you stuck with us this long, immense, immense thanks to you guys. We hope that you enjoyed the video and all of our talkings and ramblings and ravings as always. Like and comment down below, subscribe and share the channel, and we will be sure to catch you guys next time when we dive back down into that archive. Hasta la vista, baby!